back. Hello, today I am 1,111 days sober. I have got the lovely Jamie Reeves from Wigan on episode 4. Jamie is a blue-eyed soul man, a business and transformation coach, entrepreneur, dad, singer, songwriter, and former extra on EastEnders. How are you, legend?
I'm good. You forgot to mention about learning to ride a moped on Albert Square in that. If you're going to mention EastEnders, you've got to do it properly.
Oh, apologies. Right. So, explain to our listeners what.
Start the fucking podcast again.
Right. Let's fucking start again. Right. So, right back to the start. So, blue-eyed soul man, business transformation coach, entrepreneur, dad, singer, songwriter, former extra on EastEnders. He learned to ride a moped on EastEnders.
Right. Albert Square, yeah.
Over to you. How did that happen? And tell me about it.
So, in my 20s, I spent a lot of time going around the circuit singing and stuff. And one of the ways, a lot of that is kind of weekend work. So, a lot of the things that singers do is do extras stuff. So, be in the background for EastEnders and whatnot. So, I hooked up with an agency who got me a few ads, got me EastEnders a few times. And the first call for EastEnders, he said, "Can you ride a moped?" I went, "Has it got gears?" He went, "No, I don't think so." I said, "Yeah, I'll be all right then." So I haven't got done basic training or whatever it is to ride a moped. I just said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And because it's classed as a special skill, so you didn't just get your normal money; you got double your money and an easier job. But the EastEnders mechanic used to hate me because every time the moped was always breaking down. So if I walked in with the helmet, he'd be like, "You can shove that helmet up your fucking arse."
Brilliant. Who was on EastEnders at the time then? Was it like Peggy Mitchell?
Yeah, so you'd have like Mike Reed and Barbara Windsor and
brilliant.
Barry from EastEnders.
Yes.
So the Mitchell brothers. No, Phil was there. I don't think Grant was. The DeMarcos, do you remember them?
Yes, Pepe.
So I've eaten food in their cafe.
Love that.
So, yeah. And I've done, since moving back to, that was when I lived in Gloucester. When we moved to the northwest, I've done Corrie, Hollyoaks, Emmerdale. So I've pretty much done all the major soaps.
That's amazing.
So I was a copper in Hollyoaks and I arrested Warren Fox.
That is brilliant.
So there you go. There's a couple of extra tales. But as glamorous as all that sound, extras work is fucking boring. It's
yeah.
I wouldn't do now. 12 hours sat on a set waiting to kind of walk there and talk rhubarb. No, thank you.
I can imagine that. So when I did the Weakest Link, I had to sit. I had to, the rhubarb stuff. So you had to sit in the like waiting room, the green room before they film you all in there, and you had to say like
pretend they had conversations, and that's what you do there. Jonathan Ross's mum used to work on EastEnders as a regular extra, and I've met her a few times.
Wow. So that's why I went on the Weakest Link.
Yeah.
That's why I went because the Weakest Link though, because I thought I wanted to be. I mean, I don't now at all, but I wanted to be on TV. So I was like, what things can I be on? So I've been on like at this random show with one of the in-betweeners before they were like really famous on BBC Two. It's called Winging It. But I would do anything. So, but it's interesting because people I'd been on that Weakest Link with, I'd watched like game shows like Golden Balls. Remember Golden Balls with Jasper Carrot? Yeah. I'd watch these things and I'd be like, I met her at Weakest Link. So it wouldn't just be me; it'd be everyone jumping around the circuit, like trying to get on like these game shows. Yeah. It was. Anyway,
because like when you sat having, it's filmed at Elstree, and he's pops there, and kind of you go in the canteen and you have your dinner, and like you've got little Mo sat across the way from you, and then pop star from top of the pops is kind of in the corner of your eye. It is a bit surreal.
Talking to pop stars, you've had a top 10 hit as well, haven't you?
Kind of. It's a bit of a blag, really. Well, it is and it isn't. I've been in the iTunes reggae chart top 10 for one
That's
day. So,
incredible. That's
so
still
yeah, my
incredible.
song "Let's Get Married" got into the iTunes top 10. So
And you
that
wrote
was
that for your wife, right?
yeah, yeah. It was our all about our wedding day.
Oh,
So
you
when I did my
romantic, you.
yeah, I
So,
like a bit of reggae music. So it was.
yeah.
I'm married in Jamaica, so it was quite apt and fit.
Ah. So who else was in the charts then when you were in like the top 10?
So it was based on reggae, so it's a lot of like classic reggae stuff. So people like UB40, Bob Marley, Kevin Little,
Wow.
Shaggy. So yeah,
That's incredible. So
mix.
obviously, I've explained to you, I've explained to listeners, in my words, who Jamie Reeves is.
Yeah.
So in your words, who is Jamie Reeves?
Um, I'm just a dad. Really, that's my bit. I kind of live to provide experiences for me and my family. And I do that through my company, The Best Singing Waiters. I set up a coaching company now called Dr. Biz. I play around with music, so I love writing music. I've got 3 albums out, and then I'm just an unpaid Uber driver, driving my kids around to all their activities.
That's
Uh,
brilliant.
so yeah,
Yeah, I know how much of a family man you are, and it's great to see. What does booze to better mean to Jamie?
so let me get my sober app out. So I stopped drinking about 7, 8 years ago, but then when Liverpool got to the FA Cup final, the Green Man without didn't only had Beck's Blue in there, and Beck's Blue wasn't good enough for an FA Cup final. So I indulged then, and but since then I've probably been I can't find my app over 500 days anyway since I last drank. I've got a little brewdog hazy AF
Love
that
it.
was off one of my Christmas box beers. Um, so he, yeah, I just don't. TVs in your home. Couldn't you? That's a shame. So um, for me, it's about having more energy. Um, that was completely the reason why I gave up drinking. I went to a house party around Halloween, just after my 40th birthday. So we're probably going back about 8 years, and got smashed. Didn't have a problem with booze at all. I regularly drink a beer or max two most of the time, and occasionally got smashed, like most what is deemed as normal people.
Yeah.
Um, and then got got really drunk, had a 3 day hangover, and just thought, "Fuck this for a game of soldiers." I'm too busy. I need better energy than this. A lot of people within my peer group I used to do just rejoined a thing called Entrepreneur Circle, and a lot of people within that were were kind of giving up the drink, and I was like, this is really interesting. Why don't I try it? Um, so I did. Gave up for a couple of weeks, then went to some restaurant that didn't have alcohol-free beer. No, it wasn't. It was a songwriting conference, and got given your first drink free. So it was a bottle of Corona. Tasted it, and all I could taste after 2 or 3 weeks of drinking Beck's Blue was the chemicals, was the
Chemicals.
alcohol. And I was like, "No, this is shit." And went back to the alcohol-free stuff. Um, and then when I went to the cup final, I found a couple of beers that didn't taste so alcoholic.
Yeah, yeah.
So a couple of the IPAs that Camden Brewery do. Um, but yeah, for me, it's. But then, really, in that cup final, I felt a little bit Subbuteo player, a little bit wobbly, and felt a bit shit because the hangover started coming during the game when you stopped drinking, and didn't enjoy it as much as I should. And I'm a bit pissed off with myself, if I'm honest, because it's it's kind of a little bit like when you smoke when you're 15.
Yeah.
You know, when you first start smoking, you don't really like the taste, makes you pull a whitey, you feel green and sick and horrible, but you keep doing it to look cool. And I'm wobbling in the cup final, thinking, "You idiot! You've just
Yeah,
been
yeah.
your 15-year-old self." So pretty much after that, I think I got a free voucher for a cider, and most alcohol-free ciders are shite. Um, they're like apple ties. There's one that's decent, that's called Unicorn Cider, and I can't remember for the that is done by Tasty Cider. They're a cider specialist based in Somerset, and they do a really nice alcohol-free cider that reminds me a little bit of Strongbow.
Yeah, yeah. I used to
Um,
love a Strongbow.
yeah, well, this one is a proper craft cider, so
Yeah,
I buy it sometimes as a treat.
yeah.
If the kids are getting loads of bottles of Prime, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're spending £2-3 on this rubbish,
Yeah.
buy myself craft cider because it's too expensive, and we're there. You go. There's another bottle of Prime. There's another. Right, where's that cider order again? Bang. So I like
Yeah.
occasionally, but yeah, that's kind of it was to be have more energy. Um, I'd just become a dad for the third time, and yeah, drinking just wasn't fun anymore. Um,
No.
so yeah, that was kind of what triggered me into to giving up the booze.
So for me, obviously, a bit about your bio. You started DJing at 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How did that then impact you coming into? Because I've basically I read a lot about DJs, and a lot about their stories is they go hard early, and then like most of them now, Brandon Block, Calvin Harris,
Yeah,
are all now like they'll grow watermelons and drink green tea.
yeah.
What was your experience like when you, because 16 is quite a young age to start DJing. What was your experience like when you were DJing?
So for me, it was kind of more commercial and more pop. So it wasn't. While the scene is very very different now, a lot of that what was kind of deemed as underground kind of dance back then is probably kind of a lot more mainstream now. So it was much more kind of to start with more wedding disco-y. But then as I moved into pubs and clubs, I got my Pete Tong on and started learning how to mix and do.
Yeah,
Don't ask me to do it now because I probably couldn't mix a cake.
yeah.
But I used to do all the beat matching and stuff. But because I was driving everywhere, I didn't really kind of drink that much. So I'd have a pint or two tops and then kind of leave it at that. Uh,
Yeah,
but being involved in the entertainment industry on the Monday nights off. So when I worked at the nightclub, because you work from kind of Wednesday to Saturday, over in the next, I lived in Gloucester. The next town, Cheltenham, used to have Monday night student night. So we'd all pile over, go in Kings early doors, get a few downers, then go over to Cheltenham and
yeah.
have more. Um,
So that
so, and we've got quite a family culture of drinking as well. So drinks always been available within the house. Um, not kind of anything alcoholic or anything, but everything's celebrated with a drink. Everything's commiserated with a drink. Toasted with a drink. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And drink was used as a way to unwind. Especially for my parents, they're working class parents.
yeah.
My dad was an electrician, or still is. My mum was a nurse. So there was always be beer, wine, and everything around the house, and we wouldn't. That was never hidden from us. So we would often have a little bit of wine with our Sunday dinner.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
14, 15, I'd be able to have a can of beer because my mum and dad would rather me have a can with them than get pissed on the streets.
Yeah, it's
What they
such an
didn't
interesting thing. Yeah.
What they didn't know is I'd have a couple of cans on the streets,
Yeah.
nice little beer buzz come there, have another one while I'm sat with them. So I'd
Yeah.
go to bed with a nice little beer buzz on. I wouldn't get smashed and be throwing up, although I did on a couple of occasions. But a typical Friday night wouldn't mean that I'd be throwing up, but I'd have a nice little beer buzz because I was clever about it, so that I could have 3 or 4 beers and yeah.
Amazing. It's crazy how that seems to be the culture, because I'm getting the same sense of warm vibes. Like 14, 15, I'd be able to go out with my parents, have a meal,
Yeah.
and I always believed there was a rule that when you're 16, or when you, I think you're 30, I don't know what it was. When it was 13, you could have a meal, you have a beer with your drink, even you a beer with your food, and it was
Yeah.
bollocks, whatever it was. But I would then, I remember the first holiday I went to Spain, and they're a bit more lax. But I went with my dad. We went to watch United, and we had Carling Premier, and it was really smooth. But
Yeah.
Carling Premier was quite strong. Well, for me at 14 years old, I
Yeah.
remember having 2 pints, and I was wasted. But that was like my first taste of beer. But it was kind of like a more, you did it with your dad, and it wasn't that, because you weren't. I
Yeah,
suppose
on
it was more.
holiday, I remember drinking Keo in Cyprus when I was
Yeah,
like 13, 14, when we went out for a meze. And
yeah.
yeah, that was definitely done when you went abroad on holiday.
But it was more. It was more at the time. I believe it was more like acceptable because you weren't going out, so they didn't know. You weren't going out getting battered with your mates, but because my mum and dad have always said, if it's under our roof, we know you've got a handle on it.
Hmm.
But it's different when I was doing it under their roof when I didn't have a handle on it. It's quite weird, isn't it? How that
Yeah,
happened.
and
Uh,
I
yeah,
don't know if I'd like that for my kids right now.
yeah. I was about to say, what position?
So my wife still drinks occasionally,
Yeah,
but we just with Christmas just gone. I said, "Oh, do you want to get me?" She'll have a cider usually, so either a Magners or a Copperberg or something like that.
yeah,
I said, "Do you want me to get some cider in for Christmas?" She's like, "No, I'm good," because she was working a little bit. So we don't tend to have alcohol in the house. So if she drinks, it's usually because she's gone out on a social occasion with her workmates or friends or something. So yeah, it's going to be harder for them to come. Whereas me as a teenager, I could go and nick a SodaStream bottle and create a nice little cocktail
yeah,
from thing, and then sneak that onto the school fields with your mates and have a crafty little sip. Um,
yeah.
I've got a Brewdog Hazy AF here. That's not going to be the same sneaking that behind the bike sheds for my kids. So, you're a bit fucked on that one.
What's your? Because how old is your oldest now? Your oldest is getting
14, he's 15.
14. What's your stance on? Because I know he's super athletic, super into his football.
Yeah,
So obviously, 9 times out of 10 they don't go in hand.
yeah.
However, what's your stance if he's come to you saying, "Dad, I fancy a pint," or "Dad, am I allowed to have a alcoholic drink or whatever"? What's your
It's,
stance on that?
it's, it's his choice because I can't make that decision for him.
No,
You know as well as I do that if you try and do that to your child, they're just going to go and do it anyway.
rebel, yeah,
Um, So we've already had that conversation that while I hope that you follow in my footsteps, it
yeah,
isn't my decision to make. That's totally your decision to make. And he's like, "No, Dad, I want to play football at the highest level I can." So that's not even on my radar at the moment. And we've also talked about drugs as well,
yeah,
um, because I'd rather he had a conversation with me, especially nowadays that it's much more prevalent and much more readily available to what it was when I was 14, 15.
yeah, yeah,
You when I was kind of, well, probably not 14, but 15, 16, weed was going around quite a bit, and obviously
yeah, yeah. Same.
you would try that, and I smoked when I was that age as well, so that probably made that pathway a little bit easier. I'd be the only thing I'd be really disappointed if he smoked. If he smoked, I would
Yeah,
give him
yeah,
the biggest bollocking ever because I'm an ex-smoker as well as ex-drinker,
yeah,
so I'm probably what some people would call the most boring person in the world. But as an ex-smoker, you tend to be harder on that when just the smell of it, and so I'd be really
yeah.
disappointed if he did that. But then again, the peer pressure and the flavors that are available when you vape now,
And the
it,
colours as well, don't they? They make
yeah,
it
yeah,
so
it's
attractive.
it's like it is like it's targeted to kids, which is not
100%.
great. But if he tried drugs, I'd want him to be educated on it. That would be my only kind of, okay, you want to try this, so tell me about the pros of it, tell me about the cons of it,
Yeah, yeah,
tell me who you're getting it off, tell me who you know who you've got it off, that have had it
yeah,
off
yeah,
there
yeah,
before. What was their experience on it? Be sensible about it, because there are pros and cons to everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, as people that have, like, I've only ever done weed, so I can't really kind of talk about experiences and anything else. But
yeah,
there'd be highs and lows, I guess.
yeah, 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 100%.
So it's not a decision I can make for him. I can only guide him.
Yeah, it's crazy how you mentioned about the vape situation, because I agree with you in terms of how they the marketing is purely based, you know, the flavors, the colors.
Hmm.
The same happened to us. I'm a little bit younger, but the same happened to us with like Hooch and
I was just
WKDs. They're all aimed at us because the colors, the flavors, you know, they're all, you know, I just saw yesterday that WKD have got an alcohol free one out now, and a lot of people are trying it and saying it's bringing them back to their youth. But it's
why don't
yeah,
Wicked was just like, or WKD was just like Iron Brew, so why not
yeah,
apply for Iron Brew?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me.
It is
So,
crazy how they market it, because I see 13, 14-year-old kids all walking around with vapes now because it's the in thing, isn't it? And like you
yeah,
said, peer pressure can get you in that way. So when you were traveling around Europe singing at the age of 20 as a Robbie Williams tribute act,
yeah.
what was the what was the lure there, and was there any like wild nights when you were doing that, or how did that happen, how did that come across, and how did you, because I know you met your wife in when you were traveling Europe as well.
Yeah, so my first job abroad was when I was 20, working as a DJ kids presenter in a holiday centre that was all inclusive. So we were just on the lash all the time, six,
Yeah.
7 nights a week. So I injured my knee at the end of it. Um, I was playing volleyball and I just dived and caught my kneecap wrong, and my knee swelled up and had to go and have some injections and things, and they were taking fluid off my knee, and it was this like golden yellow color, and I just joked to the doctor, I know that's San Miguel on the knee, that um, because I drank that much of it that summer,
Yeah.
working in a all inclusive place. You guests come up and give you a couple of beers and feed you a couple of beers here, there, and everywhere. At my 21st over there, got absolutely battered. I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I was working till 2 o'clock, and I was legless by the time I was there, because it was my birthday, and someone picked up a table, they got a load of beers, used the table like a tray, and brought it over and put it next to my DJ booth.
yeah.
Um, so it was just help yourself, and I vaguely remember ping ponging, walking home at like 4 or 5 in the morning or whenever it was, and then I phoned my mum the day of my birthday, my 21st birthday, and I had to cut the call short because I was that hungover. I was about to go and be sick. But and that was what you classed as a great night out then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I just kind of look back on some of those things and think, if I'd have cared less about alcohol and more about pushing myself in the right way, would I have achieved more? And don't get me wrong, I've achieved quite a lot in my life, and
you have, yeah.
where the ups and downs have happened, I've had some beautiful results out of them. Like, I was never meant to go to Cyprus; I was meant to do Menorca for the summer, but that bombed, and I ended up going to Cyprus. And in Cyprus is where I met my wife, and now we've had 3 kids and made this life together. So if something shit hadn't have happened, something
Yeah.
beautiful would have never have happened. Um, but I do think that, would I have, with a more sober head, would have I achieved more in music when I was chasing the pop dream, trying to get into a boy band or do something solo. But you'll never know, will you?
So going back to that, how did then being a DJ, a kid, an all inclusive, how did that turn into a dream of being in a pop band? How did that momentum shift happen, and what happened in that?
So, with it being a family holiday centre, they used to put on lots of shows and got involved in dancing, and a lot of it was mime. But used to sing along to the songs, and all the guests would be like, "You've got a really good voice. Why don't you sing?" So the next year, I went and worked for Haven, and instead of
In
doing it as a
Cyprus.
no, I mean, whatever test me. I thought because like Majorca was an island, Isle of Wight's an island. I had the choice of doing Scarborough at a real big, one of their biggest holiday centres, or I could do the Isle of Wight. And I thought, well, Majorca was an island, Isle of Wight's an island. I had loads of fun in Majorca. Isle of Wight would be just the same, and it wasn't. It was fucking awful. I hated it, and couldn't wait to leave, I guess. Had some real fun times and met some real nice people. So it's probably sounding a bit harsh if any of my old Haven mates that were listening to this. But when you compare, they say comparison is the thief of joy, and it definitely is in this. When I compare Majorca to the Isle of Wight, two completely different seasons. So that got me into singing. Then I worked around the circuit a little bit in the UK, and then got the opportunity to go to Menorca. There's a Robbie Williams tribute over there. That died after about 2 months. But I managed to get the rest of the summer over in Cyprus, which was supposed to be for 3 months, and I stayed for 3 years before coming back
Amazing.
over here.
So when you come back into the UK, was that when you decided? Have you decided? Obviously, I know you got 3 albums, but have the first album did pretty well, didn't it, on iTunes?
Yeah, did okay. The album was probably done about 7 years. I think this year's the 10th anniversary, I believe. Um, so yeah, it was quite. Yeah, we came back in 2006. So it'd be about 9 years from coming back. So it wasn't something I did straight away. Um, so yeah, it was an itch that I just had to scratch. I had to do it, even if I was only doing. Originally, it was just one song,
Yeah.
and then it turned into something more.
Have you got plans to do? Have you got plans to really? I know you're super busy and really like obviously an inspiration to me, and I've leaned on you a lot with your business and your yeah, just how well you've been to me. But what, because you're busy, do you still have that dream in the background that I want to still release albums, release songs? Because I suppose because I know you're taking your kids here, there, and everywhere with football, dance, and the likes. Do you get time to still write songs, you know, and sing them?
Not so much sing them. I love the writing process. Um, I hate everything else. I love creating something and then getting that final bit done. Um, but all the other bullshit that goes with it, the bit that you need to do to make it successful, creating content and promoting it and doing all that, I just don't really have time for that. So I'm kind of, I have a love hate relationship with writing music.
Yeah,
Um, like I love the process of it. I love creating it. I love hearing that sound, and I'm incredibly proud of what I've done. But then it really fucking annoys me that it hasn't done very well, or
yeah,
not
yeah.
to the level that I want it to be at. Um, so then I'm like, I can't be asked to write music. I'm never going to write music again. This is just such a Larry letdown. I'm not fucking doing it anymore. And
Yeah,
I'll throw my toys out the pram, and then sooner or later I'll be like, yeah, I've got this idea. And
yeah.
I'll start writing down a few song titles, and I'm sure at some point in the future I'll create album number 4, or at least release a few more singles, just to scratch the itch, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I might be able to go booze free. Might be able to give up the cigs, but I don't think I'll ever give up writing songs.
And I've listened to the third album and it was bloody brilliant. So
Thank you.
yeah, massive kudos to that. So with the business, this best singing waiters,
Hmm.
obviously you used to were the main act and you sung a lot at wedding. A lot. I know it's corporate dues as well, but a lot of
Hmm.
it's based on weddings, and they tend
Yeah,
to be quite a boozy gigs. So the
yeah.
ones you sung at before, how would you? Obviously, you act like a pro now, but how would you deal with the social pressures to booze when you were at these gigs, or is it because you're a singer you didn't you just went and come back? If that makes
I was
sense.
always really controlled. Well, I say really controlled because I can tell you a few stories of getting boozed up at gigs really, really easily. But if I was driving, I was always really controlled.
Yeah,
I never have more than kind of half or a pint because they're just too far away, and it just makes things awkward. But if I didn't have to drive, then I'd get on it with the wedding guests.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember going to Italy and did a gig in Rome.
Wow.
It was Jubilee weekend, real Irish wedding. So that Irish wedding where all the booze is paid for. So
Yeah,
that was a recipe for disaster. So it's
yeah.
Jubilee weekend, really busy. I had a gig on the Friday in Italy, um, and then on the Saturday I was Hertfordshire somewhere, I think. Um, so did my thing, pretended to be Italian, stormed the gig, really went well. Had this Irish guy trying to speak to me in Italian, and I'm just going, "Si, si, grazie, grazie." And he's there trying to speak his best Italian. And I'm just thinking, just spit it out in fucking English, lad. I'll understand it. So when he was revealed, the look on his face was like, "I was trying to speak Italian to you, you twat." So anyway, did the gig, stormed the gig, and they had Peroni on tap, they had red wine, they had mojitos. Got absolutely battered with them. Don't know how I got to bed. Woke up the next morning with a knock on the door from the taxi driver, going, "Should have been gone 10 minutes ago. Come on, get up." So I'm there, scrambled all my stuff into my suitcase. Couldn't find my phone.
Oh shit.
Uh, Taxi driver's not. You need to go. Come on. So I had to leave my phone there.
No.
Don't know what happened to the phone. So I then flew back to the UK. It's the busiest weekend we'd ever had up to that point as singing waiters. None of my team could get hold of me because I got pissed the night before and lost my phone.
Wow.
So yeah, and then when years later went and did Mallorca, we did like a test thing for Thompson Holidays, and then on the last night went out with the boys and we had a really good time. But again, I can't remember going home.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
that that was probably one of the things as well when I was thinking about giving up drinking that I was thinking back to, because as I got older, I remembered less,
Yeah.
um, and I just felt that wasn't good. And kind of, I remember the next day going for a siesta because I felt rough as shit,
Yeah.
and the room was still spinning around, and I'm like, yeah, you need
And I
to
think
stop.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I think that's it because the older you get, the worse the hangovers or the worse the recovery gets because I
Totally.
yeah, like the Friday I would or the Thursday it would be my start of my weekend, and then by Sunday I was hanging, and then it would take until the Wednesday, and then I'd do it all again. So you're just absolutely killing your body and all your energy. Just explain because I've done a bit of research today, but just explain to people who aren't familiar with the best singing ways what it means and what they do.
So typically we do like weddings and corporate events. So we'll pretend to be waiters right through up until kind of the end of mains, beginning of desserts. Then we'll kind of do something to grab everybody's attention, propose a toast, something along those lines. And then during the desserts, we burst out into song, work the tables, get everybody waving napkins and doing little love train conga lines around the room and having sing offs and just really breaking all the kind of party etiquette rules and just making it one great big party while everybody's still eating. And the surprise nature of that just really changes the atmosphere. It makes people really un-British. So even the most hardened crown kind of just lose themselves and go with the flow.
Yeah.
I call Interestingly, I call it getting drunk on the wedding rather than drunk at the wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Love that.
so,
Oh,
so whereas people kind of lean on those bottles of wine to create the conversation and to create that atmosphere and to break the ice, with the singing waiters, you don't need that.
so how how did the idea come up from you? Because it's incredible. So how did that arise?
So I was trying to launch a wedding entertainment agency, put together this big catalog website that had loads of different acts like bands, pipers, classical singers, impressionists, lookalikes, and singing waiters. And for one reason or another, Google ranked singing waiters, my page of singing waiters, on the first page. So we used to get loads of inquiries. At the time, it was the only kind of singing waiters you could get were operatic. There was nobody doing like pop sing along stuff, and I found them really difficult and really expensive to work with. They kind of gave you, well, it costs this, and then we need this, and then we need this, and then we need this, and then just give me one fucking price
Yeah.
so that I can go to my client, say, right, add my 15% or 20% or whatever I was charging. I think it was 15. This is going to be the price. This is the deposit. Then you pay the balance then. But because it was so awkward and so expensive, I never got any bookings off it. So I was struggling for gigs a little bit and was like, this could work as a pop thing, get people singing along. So I started it like that. And within a year, we had 6 people working for us and it just flew.
And you've also had people that have been on the X Factor, haven't you? I remember you telling me one story about them coming because how you used to audition. I'm sure that now they used to come to your house. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Back in the early days, they would be kind of auditioning in my front room or my kitchen. So now with the advent of technology, we use Zoom lots, and live video. But going back sort of like 12, 14 years ago, there was no Zoom, not as easy. Video phones were just kind of coming in, but they weren't particularly brilliant. So we do a lot of face to face auditions. So people would come to my house to start with, and then I moved my work out of the house into an office. But where the office was, there was lots of other businesses. In fact, our office used to be across the way from one of the Wigan MPs.
Wow.
So if they're belting the audition and they're doing some serious work in the MP's office, um, so then I was doing some music lessons and they had a little rehearsal room, so we used to hire that occasionally. But then it's always a pain in the ass because you'd hire it and then there'd be a no show.
Yeah.
So that's why nowadays we just use Zoom. It's a lot easier on our time. It's a lot easier for everybody else, and you can still get across a lot of the same stuff.
Amazing. So what alternative coping mechanisms have you turned to without resorting to alcohol?
Alcohol-free stuff.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I basically swapped Corona for Bex Blue, um, and then over the years, there's been lots of different ones that have just got better and better and better. I wouldn't touch Bex Blue with a barge pole now.
No, 100%.
Because there's so many different ones. Guinness alcohol free is my favourite, so they need to sponsor your pod.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's next level, isn't it?
Yeah. That's my favourite. Brewdog do some nice ones, like I'm drinking one of my Christmas beers here called Hazy AF.
Yeah, that's good.
Infinite IPA I like. Interestingly, I think most of the major brands are shit.
Agreed. Yeah, we're actually talking about this to some other some people in the community today, and there's a massive I think some stat about the big brands are still leading the way, but I've seen a lot of like indie bands, like independents, come through because although Brewdog do a good one, there's a company called Mash Gang,
Right.
and they're like the alcohol-free version of Brewdog, but they bring up some really good stuff, and I've actually just been to the first one, this pop-up shop in Cambridge, and there's so many different little cool brands, but the big conglomerates have just, unfortunate. Well, it's life, isn't it? But they,
Do you know what really pisses me off about pubs? So you go into pubs, a lot more of them have got Guinness alcohol free now, so that's great.
yeah,
But all they serve you is Heineken.
yeah, 100%.
Now, Heineken with alcohol in is shit.
Yeah,
So what makes you think when it's alcohol free, it's going to be any better?
100%. Yeah, that's
So
my bugbear as well.
pubs, please, 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 please,
Yeah,
do some research and kick Heineken off your shelves because it's crap.
yeah, and I think the research out there now, is especially with like 18 to 25-year-olds, only like a quarter of them drink. That everyone's going alcohol. It's more of a trendy thing to do as well now. So get with it, and like, yeah, definitely. I spoke to someone the other day who runs a nightclub, and they were saying how they've bought some really good brands in, alcohol-free brands out, because not many, especially if you're going to watch a gig on a Tuesday night, unless you're like I was in my teens or 20s, wanting to get battered, but not many people do now. So that it's best to have that option in. I mean, yeah, and a decent option. How do you
Yeah.
think your decision to live alcohol free has influenced your relationships, like personally and professionally? And also, how's it influence your businesses?
Well, I've got more energy, so I don't have to worry about um, spending 3 days hungover. So that's a better thing. I can always drive everywhere. I remember going on holiday to Cyprus, and I think my parents were looking after the kids. So me and Claire sneaked off to kind of this English bar, upset all the locals by doing the quiz and winning and taking all the money. And I think we had I had 5 bottles of Beck's Blue or something. And it was great to drive there and then drive back home.
Yeah, yeah,
No bother. Um, so that aspect of things, always being able to drive somewhere, like on New Year's Eve, Claire was like, "Well, you can drive because it means I can have a cider." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. I've got no issue with
yeah,
with that." Um, I did have an issue with the restaurant. It's a lovely restaurant, so I won't name it, but they ran out of alcohol-free beer on New Year's Eve, which was a bit of a
yeah,
come on, guys, sort yourself out. But it's a lovely restaurant, and they always serve me well, so I'm not going to mention it.
yeah.
So if they recognise me, then they can do me the respect because I didn't name them.
Exactly. Yeah. So like,
But
yeah, it's just been a massive, like, the energy is the main focus. What you,
energy is the
yeah,
main thing. That was the whole reason why I gave up, was because even having 2 or 3 beers was making me feel a bit crappy for a couple of days. And then when I had more than a few beers, I couldn't remember half of the evening.
mm.
So what's the point?
Yeah. I think that's a great point. To be honest, I think that, especially when we're getting older, we think that night was great, but can we really remember it? You know, I've been on holidays where I couldn't fucking remember what happened.
There's a famous saying about Richard Branson. Richard Branson says, if you can remember going to a virgin party, you probably weren't there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So again, I'm trying to build all these really nice experiences that I have for myself, with my wife, and with my kids. I want to remember those things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to forget them. I don't want to get so bad that I can't remember it, and then feel shit for 2 days afterwards. like I say, I'm really bad about ex-smokers. I think I'm going that way about drink as well now.
Yeah.
Um, so,
It,
but yeah.
it's interesting you touched upon smokers. I've always been. My parents smoked when I was a kid, and I've got asthma.
Hmm.
But I've always been not like anti smoking. So I 100% do that now. And obviously I've loved, and I think that's, I've had a lot of shit recently, and this is what we talked about off air in terms of like sticking your head above that parapet. I've had a lot of shit recently because people are seeing it as more of me preaching, or just because someone's commented saying just because you had a problem doesn't mean everyone else has a problem.
Yeah, totally.
And I get that, and I 100% agree with that. But I'm not saying I'm not saying. All I'm saying is it's not coming from a preach sheet. I fucking loved the session. I loved all of that. But what I'm saying is now I come from a different point of view. This is my journey. Like obviously, that's why I get amazing people on like who share their other journeys. And the fact is that the networks and the people we hang with, their lives dramatically improved since giving up what is a poison. So that's that's all I'm sharing, and it's interesting to hear other people's views on it. And
It triggers people though, doesn't it? Because you're being different from the norm. So for me, I don't preach. My wife still drinks and still goes out with the girls, and we'll still do shots and things like that.
yeah,
And that that's totally cool. If she's happy doing that, then I'm happy. Like I said before, for my kids, well, I don't wish it upon them. If they choose to do that and they're educated and they know the pros and cons, then that's their decision, not mine. Um, so yeah, it's my parents drink, my brother drinks,
yeah,
most of my family drink. They probably think I'm weird and I'm the odd one out, and I'm quite happy with that.
yeah.
Um, Happy being me, and if people like it, great. If they don't, fuck off.
Well, and exactly that. Like they don't have to watch my content. They don't have to listen to my stuff. I've had enough nice comments, enough great comments, and my clients are happy with my stuff. So they're the priorities, and they're the main people. You know, the fact that we're talking about families, the impact it's had on my family. I went to my mum and dad's for Christmas Day, and it was only my mum and dad that were drinking. My brother-in-law and my sister, they all had non-alcoholic gin. I mean, we had probably the best range possible. And I'm like, I didn't say that. I just said to my mum, "Can I have Asahi Zero?" That's all I wanted. But then that
Yeah,
whatever snowball effect,
yeah,
and that's but I can see what it's done to me. You know, it was only ever meant to be 3 months for me, but I can see the impact it's had,
yeah,
and that's why I'm still like living the alcohol free dream, because I've gone from that booze to bed. You know, I've been in kitchens till 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, I know both sides.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And that's all it's coming from. And it's interesting to hear a very successful businessman via how he used to drink, and how how you know I've seen how much best singing weight has flown off. I've seen all the good stuff that you do, and that's yeah that just inspires. That will inspire your kids, and that will inspire others. What?
yeah. You can't do
Yeah.
that unless you've got great energy.
No.
And for me, that's what do you want out of life? Do you want to drink and do that? It was the same when funnily enough, it was the same when I smoked. I had a decision to make. I had the chance to kind of be pro. I was like, well, do I smoke or do I sing?
Yeah.
So I had to give up the cigs because it was affecting my voice. Um, and that made it really easy to give that up.
Yeah.
So it was the same with the drink, really. Do I want loads of energy to do everything I want to do with my kids and run my businesses? Or am I prepared to kind of get on it, have a good time on that, but then be out of action for 3-4 days?
Yeah.
easy decision.
Yeah, the worst trade-off in history is Friday nights for the whole weekend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to wrap it up, because I know I've had you so a long time, what advice would you give to Jamie in his drinking heyday and or at the height of your booze, and why would you give him that advice?
I don't know if I would, because you either win or you learn. It's one of my favourite sayings.
Yeah,
I've even got my 7-year-old saying it.
love it.
Um, so I think from there's lessons in everything, and certain things have happened for certain reasons. And I was chatting to somebody earlier about how I've been very persistent and very dogged, and like if something goes wrong there, then it's kind of keep your eye on the prize, um, keep working to find the solution to get to that bit.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess I'd just kind of say the same things as I will say to Jack and Amelia. It is that, okay, if you're going to do this, what are the pros, what are the cons, um, and then make your own decision. Um, like I say, I've got a bit of regret about, well, what if I hadn't have been so obsessed about getting on the beers? What what else could I have achieved
yeah.
if I'd have had a sober mindset? Um, so it doesn't keep me awake at night,
No, no.
and it doesn't haunt me, but I do. If I go off on one and you're daydreaming in the clouds and whatnot, sometimes as you do, I do think, well, what if I hadn't have been so obsessed about that?
Yeah, that's probably my. I don't regret the times I had. Not I had. Well, I think I had some good times, but what I do regret is the time, because what alcohol free does give you is a lot of time and a lot of
Yeah,
thoughts. Obviously, them thoughts I didn't mask, them thoughts I don't mask now are now up here, and I have to deal with them in other ways. But I can't get back them 5 6 years. That's the only, like, I agree with you. Like, think how further along I'd have been in certain things. But as you said, there were
but
lessons.
you'd never be here now doing
Hundred
what you're
percent,
doing now if
hundred
you hadn't
percent,
have
I wouldn't be.
hadn't have gone down that road.
100%, I
Um,
wouldn't be. Yeah. So you're right.
so yeah, you either win or you
Yeah,
learn.
exactly. And there's always lessons, isn't there? And I think
Yeah,
I'm now where I'm at with my life. I'm so grateful for all them sessions and for all them wild nights, because exactly what you said. I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be speaking to amazing people like yourself, and I wouldn't be. I don't think I'd be as far along. Maybe not even be here at all. That's how obviously dark it got. But yeah,
mm,
it's interesting, and it's quite insightful listening to you about it, saying your take on it, saying you probably wouldn't give it. And it is interesting to hear, because a lot of people have said, well, other people have said, oh, it will be all right, which it obviously is. But when you said it like that, you probably wouldn't. You'd, because everything is a lesson. It makes so much sense. At that mad times when you were doing it, when I was doing it,
it was,
yeah,
yeah. I couldn't imagine. Like I had the happiest summer ever
yeah,
being in Mallorca. Got loads of great stories. As they say, no great story ever started with the salad.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Or a glass of
and
water.
yeah, and 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 that summer was amazing. Got loads of happy memories from it.
Yeah,
Um, and a lot of it was booze filled.
yeah, yeah,
So it was a lot of fun. But could I have probably had the same amount of fun without the booze? Probably.
yeah,
Um, yeah, definitely because I wouldn't have been staggering halfway over the place and probably could have put a few more notches on my belt.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Not that there weren't enough on there that season as it was, but but
I'll
yeah,
edit that
I
bit at the
spent
end.
such a happy time, and that's probably a great place to end the podcast.
Thanks so much. We could go on to our escapades, and but that's for the premium version. If you want to subscribe to that, there'll be added bits for it. Mate, Jamie,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Where can people find you?
So it depends. If you want to find me for the singing waiters, we're the best singing waiters. So look us up on Insta, and Facebook, and TikTok, online of that. If you want to go listen to some of my music, just type in Jamie Reeves on Spotify. And if you're interested in business coaching, look out Dr. Biz UK on Instagram as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, mate. And yeah, that's just it's absolutely brilliant. Cheers, mate. Speak to you in a bit.
See you later.